Let's talk about The Little Mermaid. The remake, the live action Little Mermaid. Oh, I'm sweating already. Hey YouTube, we're gonna do something interesting today. I just went and watched The Little Mermaid. I know, late to the game. It's coming to Disney Plus in just like a few days. Anyway, I wanted to see it on the big screen. I did see it on the big screen, and I have so many feels I wanted to make a video about it. First and foremost, if you have an issue with the color of Ariel's skin tone, this is not the video for you. You probably don't belong on my channel. If that's upsetting for you, I know it's got people up in arms because we cast a woman of color. Praise the Lord is all I gotta say. So yeah, that's my 2 cents. If you got a problem with it, I don't care. So I'm sitting here working on edits and I realized I forgot to say this entire video is nothing but spoilers. So if you haven't seen the movie and you don't want spoilers, click off the video. That's all this is spoilers, spoilers, spoilers. The Little Mermaid, 1989, was my movie. So I was 8 years old when this movie came out. So when I see little girls and they're belting out Let It Go, I feel it. So when I saw the previews for The Little Mermaid last year, oh, I got nervous. I got so nervous because that's my movie, right? So it's like, there's no way that they're not going to screw it up. And my first couple dalliances with live action, very disappointing. Now they have gotten better. My opinion, if you want to nail it with Disney live action and you want to appeal to a fan, you do it like the movie we know and love. And then you add a few more elements to make it a little bit deeper because your audience that was in love 30 years ago has grown up. So we need just a little bit more substance. I was very impressed with Beauty and the Beast. Up until the other day, that was my favorite live action. I really liked how they adultified Aladdin. I really liked what they did with Jasmine's storyline. So my feelings on The Little Mermaid, the remake, the live action Little Mermaid, A+. A++. Yes! I loved it. And I was so scared. I was gonna hate it. The previews ended, the movie started, the music started. I was like, I gotta pee. Because apparently that's my go-to when I get really nervous. Oh, I'm sweating already. Oh, Lord. Everything. I loved all of it. But let's get into specifics. Starting now, it's all spoilers. All right, so I'm just gonna go off the top of my head. It's gonna be all over the place, sporadic. I'll do my best in editing. I was in tears almost from the jump. The music was the same, like the ambiance music. When they took you underwater and you're going up to King Triton's castle. The sisters, oh, I loved how they adapted the sisters. That was great. I did think maybe the sisters were gonna have a little bit more, that we would get more from them. So I was a little bummed about that. I think that was one of the few songs that got eliminated from the original, the We Are the Daughters of Triton. That wasn't sung. And then there was no Chef Louis, my favorite Funko Pop over there. My favorite Little Mermaid Funko Pop, yes, is Chef Louis. That song didn't happen. There was no Chef Louis. I didn't even miss it. I didn't notice it until after the movie, and I'm sitting there just talking my husband's ear off. Part of Your World, I cried my eyes out. The way they did Part of Your World. I mean, I think that was so close to the Disney animated film from '89. Wasn't it? Oh, I was in tears. I was letting it happen. My husband was laughing at me. It was a good old time. Gosh, it was gorgeous. It was so gorgeous. The thingamabobs, but who cares? No big deal. And even the part where she like swims to the top and the light filters down and oh, yes, Disney. Can you tell? I loved it. Okay, so I digressed, as I do when I'm excited. A year ago when the previews came out, I was like, how are they gonna do Under the Sea? You know, you're sitting there thinking, how are they going to do Sebastian? How are they going to do Flounder? I was terrified about Sebastian and Flounder. Saw the previews 6 months, 8 months, 10 months ago, and I was nervous, but grateful. I'm very grateful I got to see those characters in that form. It gave me time to adapt. I think if I just went to the movie and had no idea what to expect, it might have been a little jarring to see Sebastian and Flounder especially looking so different. So my expectations had adjusted, and then I started thinking like, okay, yeah, live action. And how do you make Flounder look like a fish? Because Flounder doesn't look like a fish in the Disney movie. They kept Flounder's voice was pretty juvenile, but not annoying. I really liked that. They didn't minimize Sebastian's role. When I watched the live action Pinocchio, oh Lord, that broke my heart. That was so disappointing. And the thing that ticked me off the most was they really minimized Jiminy. Jiminy had a major role in the Disney flick. And I think it's like they got so excited that they had Tom Hanks as Geppetto that they forgot. And I mean, Jiminy, it's CGI and they had everything they needed. Why? They did him dirty. They did him dirty. So they didn't. I was nervous. They didn't do that with Flounder and Sebastian. So I was so grateful. The one big thing, how are you going to make this movie appealing to adults? How are you going to give a little bit more substance to the storyline? I thought they did great. I thought they did great. In particularly, they gave Eric a personality. Woo! I love that movie growing up, but it wasn't about the romance between Ariel and Eric, which, to be fair, there was none. That's just the love at first sight. I know it gets criticized a lot for that. But as a kid, that's not what I was obsessed with. That's not the part that you rewound and played over and over again. That's not the part my brother and I danced to in the living room, driving my mother crazy for years. What was that? That was Under the Sea. So, okay, where do I want to go? Back to Under the Sea, or we'll stick with Eric character's development. He was adopted. He had a mother. The part where Ariel decides to go really investigate humans for the first time, she's eavesdropping on a conversation between Eric and Grimsby, and she is learning about Eric's character. Eric is open to other cultures, and this is something she is sensitive about because she's fighting with her own father about it. So she gets to hear, it's like, oh, we have this commonality. So again, not terribly deep, but a lovely addition. I think it's that same scene. The storm comes, right? The ship, the lightning, it's on fire. She watches him rescue Max at potential great peril to himself. So not only is he talking the talk, she gets to see him like sacrifice himself for his dog, which, good job, Disney. Audiences will love that. I mean, sure, it did happen in the original movie, but it was beautiful. And then did you guys catch that? When Max is paddling to the rowboat, that she comes underneath and helps him? I'm not a pet person, and that really got me. I loved it. Okay, so character development. We talked about Eric. I will mention Ariel. When we were growing up, Disney got a lot of hate because Ariel gave up her voice for a dude. I can hardly argue with it. It's a real crap message. It's a crap message. So when they say they're going to redo The Little Mermaid, you're like, you can't take that out. That's primary to the story. Also, another digression. I have not read Hans Christian, The Little Mermaid. I really should have. I would like to know if they pulled anything from the book and added it to the movie, because how cool would that be? I do believe that book is a lot darker, so to keep it for a Disney audience could be, but I can't say anything about it because I haven't read it. If you've read it and you have thoughts and feelings, leave me a comment. Let me know if you recommend reading it. Are you a Disney fan? How did you feel about the original book? Okay, so where was I? We did Eric, we did Ariel, the deeper, her voice. So she does give up her voice, but the twist that they put on it was that she silenced herself for her family. Yes, it was still for a dude. They didn't shy away from that. But even at the end of the movie, Triton is the one who mentions it. I'm sorry you had to give up your voice. Like, never give up your voice again. So Disney acknowledged it. I thought they did beautifully. It didn't take away from the primary story, man. I wasn't even going to be mad if they did, because I'm like, that was a pretty terrible message for young women. So I thought they did great, honoring what appealed to audiences 30 years ago. So, how many minutes ago I was talking about the under the sea? How are they going to pull off Under the Sea? I was so impressed. Because they had to get creative. I mean, sure, it was all CGI, but when you watch it as a kid, those creatures, those sea creatures, are very human. They have a lot of human, and they're playing human instruments. It was beautiful. I was moved by it. And the way that they did incorporate some of the exact scenes. There's a point where two different rays, or like, they're not jellyfish, but they're doing a scene where they're dancing as though it's like two humans cutting a rug. I got choked up. I was like, it's beautiful. Speaking of moments that I got choked up, so many times. I was in tears so many times. Happy tears. But the moment I'm thinking of is Jodi Bensen, the voice actor for the original Ariel, the 1989 Disney animated film. She's in the movie. I loved it. It was so quick. I wish it would have been maybe another line or two, but it was lovely. She looked beautiful. But you guys, the Dingle Hopper. I love it. Okay, what else? Flotsam and Jetsam. Great. They did a really good job of still incorporating them without lines. Oh man, Ursula, right? Right? Ursula. Melissa McCarthy. We still had Unfortunate Souls, but when that timing was slightly different, you know, on her lines, they weren't kidding when they call me Willa. Which, quite clever. It's one of those things, the first time you're like, I didn't like that. I want it to be like the original. And then the second time you're right along with it. Like the first time I heard Halle Bailey singing Part of Your World. Actually, most of the song is almost exactly the same. And then there's that slight change in the arrangement at the end. The first time I heard it in all the previews, I was like, okay, now that's how I sing it. I've been running around the house singing all the Little Mermaid, driving my husband crazy. Wasn't until I was driving home that I noticed I think they eliminated a number of lines, but in particular, I'm 99% sure they eliminated something like a woman who gossips is a bore, and don't underestimate the importance of body language. You know, all the terribly sexist crap. So bravo. They had a couple adaptations to Ursula in her lair. I thought they were great. Her CGI was fantastic. I love watching her crawl around her lair. Her lair with Ariel and Flotsam and Jetsam, the first time she's coming to the lair. That was just like the movie. It was a slight variation of the structure, the design, but it was the same. Because I remember I was like nudging my husband and he's like, he hasn't seen it since he was like 9. He didn't watch it 4,000 times. But yeah, those little details. Oh, Disney. Thank you. Okay, what else? Oh, speaking of staying spot on with the movie, if you go back, watch the animated film from 1989, the Lagoon scene. There's a point where Ariel is trying to seduce Eric and get him to kiss her. Looking back now, as an adult, I would say it's an inappropriate level of seduction for children to be watching. Ariel is full on giving Eric bedroom eyes. I'm talking the animated film. They didn't really stray too far from it in the live action. It was helpful that in the live action, Ariel also has amnesia. So she isn't full on seductress trying to get kissed to break this spell. But flashing back, I'm like, oh my gosh, this is almost like take for take from the movie. Except, of course, the music. I thought they did a great job of adapting from, again, all these creatures singing and performing very human-like. They did a great job with Scuttle and Sebastian and Flounder. I thought that was great. I liked it. I was a little nervous when it started and none of the other fishies showed up. I approve. I loved it. It was a win. New addition. In the live action, Ariel communicates her name to Eric via the stars. I thought that was genius. That's great. You know, and it shows Ariel having some agency and taking some control, using her brain. That's another argument for people who hate the 1989 animated version is Ariel has to sign a contract with Ursula, but can't grab pen and paper to tell Eric what's going on. Yes, plot hole in the original. Corrected in live action. I loved it. Teaching him how to say her name. Oh, that was great. Early in the flick, when she's she's hunting for her, goodies with Flounder in the shipwreck. The shark scene. I thought that was fantastic because it was just like the movie. He's chasing her all around the ship like the original. But the point where like he's chasing her and the floorboards are popping up. That's just like the movie. And the way they adapted it when she tricks the shark and she traps the shark, I think it was an anchor, like the top of an anchor. She somehow maneuvers getting him to get his head stuck in the top of that anchor. And in this movie, it's the same thing. She tricks him and his head gets stuck in the frame of a mirror. But literally it was leading up to that I was impressed. The chase scene where the floorboards are popping up. Disney, are you annoyed with me yet? Are you convinced? Good Lord, I loved it. The only spoiler I had, major spoiler, that Ursula and Triton were siblings. What? When you love that movie, growing up, you think about it, I will comfort watch Disney movies all the time, and I will for the rest of my life. But yeah, you think, gosh, what is the story? What's the history? Why do Triton and Ursula hate each other? So siblings, ooh, what a twist. And then nothing. So if I'm being fair, if I have any gripes about live action Little Mermaid, I wish we could have gotten a little bit more explanation, in depth, some backstory as to why Ursula and Triton hate each other. Even at the end, when Triton is resurrected, and him and Ariel are staring at each other. So that bummed me out. And what was the only other thing that really, not really, but I was kind of like, oh man, Sebastian. Not as a whole. I told you I love that they didn't minimize his character. I didn't mind the animation or the CGI at all. I thought it was great. It took me a second to figure it out. Something was not right. And I know I'm being overly picky, but this is what I was afraid of. When it's your movie from when you're little, I think it was the voice itself. It just sounded not authoritative enough to me. And I think what I have discovered is I think it just sounded too young, too youthful. And therefore, why would her father employ him? Because clearly Sebastian's got some role. He has some responsibility. Because I loved everything else. I loved the way he did Under the Sea. And again, thank goodness they did not play down Sebastian at all. But for example, King Triton's voice, they nailed that. Triton, I was impressed. And grateful that he wasn't swimming around naked. Did you guys notice that about the mermaids? Disney gets hate, and rightly so, for so many years of drawing these women with absurd body shapes. Someone pointed it out to me once. The waist size is also the same as the arm size. So just disgusting messages that I'm loving to see that Disney is working hard to correct. So in this movie, I know that, it's live action and the mermaids they're humans, but at some point they're cutting them off at the middle. I thought they did a good job of not overly hourglassing these mermaids. And Triton, they just put clothes on them. That was awesome. So yeah, what else? If you couldn't tell, it's safe to say I'm a fan. I loved it. Was a fan of the first one. Was terrified to watch this. I was so happily surprised. Oh, happy tears. Love it. Can't wait for it to come to Disney Plus. I've already been listening to, what is that new Eric song? Is it Come Find Me? Or something about Uncharted Waters? Is that it? I've been listening to it at the gym. I love it. I love it. Yeah, they did a good job of sticking to the original storyline. Old Disney movies get a bad rap for these women needing saviors, needing a man. So I thought, gosh, it'll be tricky if they keep the same happy ending. And somehow I thought they did it. You still got your happy ending. But it did feel more like Eric and Ariel are making a choice. rather than just running off with their feelings. No tragic Romeo and Juliet feelings. It is still a love story. It is Disney. It is geared towards children. I do think they have older fans in mind like me, but they're still trying to appeal to a younger audience. So when they remake it again in 30 years, kids today will be emotionally attached to it like me. All right, future Shannon here again. I forgot to mention, while I'm sitting here talking about how anti-feminist Disney was back in '89, one of the newer twists on this movie that I thought was so dope was Ariel saves herself. The part where Ursula is all ginormous and she's swirling with the trident and the shipwrecks have come to the surface. Isn't it Eric that jumps on one of the shipwrecks and guides it so it spears Ursula in the belly? Isn't it? So in the live action, it's Ariel. Ariel does it. Ariel saves herself. How exciting is that? Also, you guys, they did it exactly the same where Ursula's rising from the sea and Eric and Ariel are like holding hands and her crown like separates them. Wasn't that cool that they did that in the live action? Isn't it obvious? I'm such a fan. I'm a fan. I don't know if I'll ever do another movie review. That's not at all what my channel was intended to be. So if this is unbearable, have no fear. I probably won't do it again. When I started my YouTube channel, it's all about me being a collector. I love collecting Disney memorabilia. I'm a collector. I guess I probably don't need to explain it. Am I an archivist? Is that how you say archivist? Archivist? I like collecting memorabilia, and part of that is Disney history. The Little Mermaid is a great example of this because we're throwing back at least 30 years. We're not going way, way back, but that's a point I'm trying to make. Disney has some dark history. There's racism, there's sexism, and it's not subtle. Disney has much to atone for. As a fan, yes, I'm quick to call that out. Yes, I don't think I could still be a fan if this company was not trying to course correct. I think they're doing a beautiful job. I'm very impressed. I like that we have men and women of color appearing on the screen. Thank you, Disney. It's about time. A+. Plus, plus, plus. All right, YouTube. Thanks so much for watching. That was a lot of fun. I will see you in the next one.